position yet.
Working on it.
Did you know that there are hero-specific settings you've probably never looked at, like Junkrat's Riptire automatically climbing walls for you, or the enable backwards wall ride setting on Lucio, which every Lucio main should turn on? My name is Karq, and if you're new to Overwatch 2, this hero settings video is for you, and we'll also get into crosshairs and how to optimize all the other settings as well to balance quality with low input lag and low system latency. Let's go from left to right, beginning with the video tab. Please check the timestamps down below in the description to follow along. For video settings, you want to put the display mode onto full screen. I do not recommend playing first-person shooters like Overwatch 2 in borderless windowed or windowed because it introduces a lot of input lag. Target display, you want to use the best match, which works for most people, or you can force it to the primary monitor if it doesn't. For resolution, I play at 2560 by 1440, 1440p now, because it actually is the next generation of competitive gaming. Like seriously, I've been on 1080p for 10 years. I'm done with it. Time to move on to bigger and better things. Also, make sure you choose the highest refresh rate of your monitor, as indicated by that bracket number. So for me, you can see 360, since I'm personally using a 1440p 360Hz display in the ROG Swift PG27AQN. Very nice. In the final year of Overwatch 1, I did use the RTX 3090 and Intel 12900K, and I still played on 1080p, but thanks to Nvidia sponsoring this video, I've finally been comfortable playing in 1440p with the new RTX 40 series. The research also indicates that playing in 1440p 27-inch displays can improve aiming by up to 3% over traditional 1080p 25-inch displays. Might not matter as much on Winston, but for my Widow and Kiriko mains, take every advantage you can get, especially when it pertains to target acquisition if you have the hardware to do so. Again, I'm on the RTX 4080 here at 1440p, and this sharper resolution lets me diff that Widow in the distance because I actually spotted her immediately. And for comparison, here's what that Widow would look like at 1080p. It's minor, but definitely noticeable in 1440p, with Widow's outfit being a little bit more white, sharper, and brighter. Field of view, you want to max this out to 103 on the far right side, as this ensures the widest perspective of your game. Here's what 80 FOV looks like compared to the recommended 103. You would actually just miss seeing enemies completely with lower FOV since it's more zoomed in. For dynamic render scale, I would keep it off so the game won't change your resolution while trying to maintain the target frame rate. For me, I'm at 400 to 500 FPS mid-fight at 1440p, which is way above my 360Hz refresh rate, so I'm good. And this dynamic render scaling should only be used for low-end machines who are getting frame rates below their monitor's refresh rate. But if you optimize your other video settings for whatever machine you're on, you shouldn't need this because a stable frame rate will maintain the lowest amount of input lag. For render scale, I would recommend 100% as it'll keep your effective resolution matching your set resolution. In my case, I'm on 1440p, so a 100% means 1-to-1, which is fine for me, again, due to the RTX 4080. If you're having trouble maintaining a higher frame rate, you could lower your render scale down to 75%, for example. So for me, if I played at a native 1440p and put this at 75%, I'm effectively playing the game at 1080p because 25% less of the 1440p resolution is 1080p. Overwatch 2 has pushed their frame rate cap to 600 now instead of 400 from Overwatch 1. So for me, I unlock my frames and keep it max at 600 because again, I'm on great hardware with the RTX 4080 and I'm able to maintain even above 500 frames when we're in the early fight and nothing's happening, but during team fights, I'm still able to maintain a frame rate above my refresh rate. However, if you're on a lower end machine, you could limit your FPS to whatever your maximum or average FPS is mid-fight. For VSync, you want to keep this setting off to maintain the lowest amount of input lag. However, if you're having screen tearing issues, as it depends on your display, you could turn this on. For triple buffering, I would keep this off. This setting basically buffers each frame in a queue, with the one you're seeing on the screen being an older frame, and it'll keep queuing or buffering a new frame, aimed to reduce screen tearing. This comes at the cost of input lag, which is not good, again, for FPSs like Overwatch. For reduced buffering, you always want this setting on as it'll reduce the amount of pre-rendered frames. You can keep it off if you're running a really old machine. However, if you're using NVIDIA Reflex, which we'll get to in a minute, reduced buffering actually doesn't really matter because NVIDIA Reflex overrides it. Speaking of NVIDIA Reflex, this setting lowers system latency if you have the GTX 900 series or newer, which is a family of GPUs from 2014. I would recommend Reflex On plus Boost, and what it does is it overrides power saving features of the graphics card and causes the clocks to stay high even when CPU bound, which lowers system latency at the cost of GPU power consumption. In other words, On plus Boost is the prioritized low latency over everything else option. You can even keep your system latency under 10 milliseconds on 1440p displays with the new RTX 40 series according to NVIDIA. And that's it for this tab. Let's go to the graphics quality. For graphics quality, I would start with the low preset here to begin with everything at the lowest for the highest performance and then tune accordingly. So here's what I recommend. The first setting to look at is high quality upsampling, which lowers the resolution of your game and then uses an algorithm to programmatically increase sharpness and details. I've actually found no difference in my FPS performance whether this is on default or on, so you can choose either option. This is what it looks like with sharpening on the max setting, and this is what it looks like with it off. If you like this look, you can turn it on with no performance issues. In order for this setting to actually work though, you cannot be at 100% render scale, so I use 99%. For texture quality, I set it on medium. This setting on high actually causes a slight performance hit, and honestly, the textures in Overwatch are really good by default anyways. Even on the low setting, you'll hardly notice a difference between medium and high, so I'll take the medium. Texture filtering quality increases the sharpness of the textures viewed from a distance or really far away. You can actually max this out to epic with no performance issues because this uses your VRAM, which you should have plenty of headroom for if you're using any of the NVIDIA cards from the last decade. Local fog detail controls the foggy, cloudy smoke effects on maps, and honestly there aren't too many maps that even have noticeable fog. I'd say keep this setting on low because anything that sort of obstructs your view is a competitive disadvantage and is not worth it. Dynamic reflections makes shiny surfaces or floors reflect hero interactions in real time. It looks really realistic and the immersion is nice, however, having an extra puddle reflection of all your teammates and enemies is a little too distracting for me, plus there's a big performance overhead. I'd say keep it off. Shadow detail shows your shadows and can give you competitive information like an enemy standing on high ground here without even peeking them. As long as it's not off, use either low or medium for best performance because high and ultra may impact your frames. Model detail controls additional objects and game assets. This is model detail on the lowest setting, and this is model detail on the highest setting. Here on Dorado, you can see a lot of extra boxes and decorations on the screen. I would recommend putting this setting on low because if you have it on high, it could add assets that block your vision, like a Pharah hiding behind these balloons on Blizzard World versus having the setting on low where you now have full view of them. Effects controls the amount of visual effects you'll see along with their details and impact, like these bullet markers when you have it on high versus having it on low. If you're a competitive player, I would actually keep this on low because visual clutter and pollution is always a huge disadvantage in a tactical shooter. Lighting quality improves the quality and the strength of light. This is lighting quality on low. Pay attention to these lights here and the walls and the doors. This is lighting quality on ultra. It looks a lot brighter and nicer if you look carefully, and I didn't notice any frame drops between the two settings, so I keep it on ultra. Anti-aliasing smooths out jagged edges on surfaces. This is what having it off looks like, and this is what the setting looks like on medium. You will gain a few extra frames by having it off or disabled, but I like my edges.
Delicious Nutella and Pop Wheat Krispies in a crunchy shell. New Nutella Be Ready.
Does trading feel like this? Learn how to trade with OctaFX. OctaFX, be resolute. Start trading now.
Smooth, and I've found medium does the job well without affecting your performance too much. If you paid attention to science class, you should know that refraction is the bending of light when it passes through an object. So this is refraction quality on low versus high. Clearly there's some distortion and bending of the objects here, but that's okay for me. It doesn't affect your performance based on my testing, so I keep it on high, but you can turn it on low if it's too distracting. Screenshot quality, of course, increases the resolution and quality of your screenshots, which are auto-saved in a full folder somewhere in your documents. Ambient occlusion adds soft shadows and some realistic lighting to small objects like walls, plants, staircases, and gives all the assets in game some more realistic depth. This does have a minor performance impact, so I would keep it off if you need the frames, but I personally think this is one of the best settings to make the game look really good without adding clutter like some of the other settings, so I personally keep this on high since I can push it. Thanks for the RTX 4080 NVIDIA. Local reflections are reflections from map-based assets like parts of buildings and trees on shiny surfaces. For example, here is local reflections off, and then if you turn it on, you actually have to restart the map or load into a new map in order to see the change, and this is what it looks like with local reflections on. Map-based assets are usually rendered on the back end and won't have any performance issues, so you can choose to keep this on if you like it. And finally, damage effects changes the impact effects that appear when you're being shot, and I just keep this on default. Okay, the last tab is called Details, which is an option that toggles your PC performance stats on the top left if you turn it on. I personally turn on frame rate, GPU temp, and network latency, along with a system clock. That's it. The next major tab is the sound settings. I turn my music volume to 0 since I just like listening to ability sound effects and voice comms. For spatial sound, I use Dolby Atmos for my headphones, and under audio mix, I use the headphone mix. Obviously, whatever sound peripheral you have, you can change it accordingly, but headphones works for most. Now here are two potentially important settings, which is play sound when an enemy is eliminated. Here is what it would sound like with it on. And here is the sound that's played when a teammate is eliminated. Both noise pitches get louder with more people being eliminated, but honestly for me, I keep the setting off because it's too distracting, but some streamers and friends of mine swear by it, so it's personal preference. Voice chat has a bunch of settings pertaining to voice comms, so I'm going to skip that over and go into controls. Here I recommend a default cross crosshair that looks like this, which will apply to all heroes that you don't change into something custom later. Then keep your allied health bars default. Then show friendly outlines from default to always. This is what default looks like, and this is what always looks like. Keeping this on always gives you a clear outer outline to your teammates, which is useful in dark maps. Now we're going to go into the change hero section and begin going over each hero, beginning with D.Va. This is my crosshair for D.Va. I use the default crosshair because we're always aiming in the center of it, but the most important thing here is to check her custom custom setting. Toggle defense matrix you want to keep off, or else you may accidentally end up using too much, since you have to input it once to activate and then once again to deactivate. I also recommend using hold booster turned on. This is so your boosters stop as soon as you let go of the button, which gives you a little bit more control. For Doomfist, he doesn't have any custom hero settings, but here's my crosshair if you want to copy it. It is under circle. However, there are custom hero settings, but here's my crosshair if you want to copy it. It is under circle. However, there are custom key bindings I recommend, which is switching the seismic slam and power block binding. However, there are custom hero settings, but here's my crosshair if you want to copy it. It is under circle. However, there are custom key bindings I recommend, which is switching the seismic slam and power block bindings if you played Doomfist in Overwatch 1. This is because seismic slam's binding was reversed in Overwatch 1, so this is mostly for muscle memory. For Junker Queen, I use the circle and crosshair. You can pause here to copy them, with the crosshair mostly to align the Gracie knife and the circle for the shotgun. She doesn't have any custom hero settings, so this is all you're gonna get. Enjoy the new skin. For Orisa, I use the circle crosshair with a little dot in the center. The dot is to kind of align my eye to the center of the screen, but the circle is rough. In the center. The dot is to kind of align my eye to the center of the screen, but the circle is roughly the size of the primary fire projectile at medium to close range, which is the range you should be playing with. As you can see, as I shoot around this bot, the hitbox should still connect. And here is Ramatra, the newest hero.
I don't fight for myself. I fight for my team.
Hero for Season 2, I use the circle crosshair. Again, you can pause here to copy it if you'd like. This is mostly designed for the close range stream of nanite projectiles in its omnic form. However, when you get into longer ranges, this crosshair will become a lot more inaccurate and you're gonna have to lead your shot anyways, so just use this as a rough starting approximation and tweak it as you like. For Reinhardt, I use the default crosshair, but I actually increased the crosshair length compared to my other crosshairs you'll see in this video, mostly designed to help align the X and Y axis for fire strikes. Remember, you video, mostly designed to help align the X and Y axis for fire strikes. Remember, you can put your fire strikes through tiny little holes as long as the center of your crosshair, or where you're aiming, goes through the hole. And if you scroll down, you'll see Ryan has 2 custom hero settings: toggle barrier, which you want to keep off, which is the setting that allows you to just put up your shield, put it down as soon as you let go of the button, because if you turn the setting on, it's just going to make Ryan shielding even harder because you have to put 2 inputs, one to put it up, one to put it down. That's no good. Okay, this next setting is called movement relative to camera during barrier free look. So let me explain how this works. While you're holding your shield up as Ryan, you can hold your swing or your primary fire button and actually swivel your camera around to look at your surroundings and look behind you while keeping your shield up in front of you. A lot of people don't know this exists. So if you have this setting on, when I'm in that barrier free look mode and I press W or S, up or down, I go towards and away that training bot in the distance because that movement is relative to me as a player controlling Reinhardt. If I have this setting off and I press forward or W on my keyboard, I'm actually going to move to the right because the movement is now relative to where the Reinhardt character himself is facing. And generally speaking, I think most people would prefer this on because it's easy to coordinate and that's your muscle memory. You press W, your character in-game goes W and goes forward. Roadhog has no custom hero settings, so all I've got for you is the circle and crosshair reticle that I personally use. The circle in the middle is to help align the shotgun pellets, and the crosshair length is sort of there to approximate hitting a hook as long as that crosshair length is touching the hitbox of your target. Sigma has a few custom hero settings. First, let's go. Over his reticle, I use the circle, and it is approximately the size of the explosion of his primary fire. As we scroll down his settings, he's got 2 custom ones. First is reload recalls barrier. This is off by default, but you can totally turn it on. There's no difference. It's just an extra keybind to recall the barrier, which is the reload button. The next one is toggle barrier, and you want to keep this off. Do not turn it on. If you keep toggle barrier off, it allows you to quickly press once and place the shield immediately. If you had toggle barrier on, the fastest you can click, if you can hear me, to send the shield out and then click it again to stop it is this, which is a big difference between quickly placing it. So again, keep toggle barrier off, off, off. For Winton, I use a standard crosshair. These are my settings, mostly because you still have to aim that secondary fire that he has. Crosshair, these are my settings, mostly because you still have to aim that secondary fire that he has now, so I like the crosshair for the X and Y. But speaking of secondary fire, he has one custom setting related to it, which is primary fire cancels the secondary fire. Keep that on. It's self-explanatory and it does exactly what it says, where it stops your secondary fire charge by pressing primary fire. For Wrecking Ball, I use a standard crosshair. You can pause here and look. For his custom settings, he only has one, which is toggle grappling claw. For this one, I'd say it's 100% up to personal preference. I know some ball players that use toggle off and some that use toggle. 100% custom settings, he only has ball. I use says where it stops. Your secondary fire charge by pressing primary fire. For Wrecking Ball, I use a standard crosshair. You can pause here and look. For his custom settings, he only has one, which is toggle grappling claw. For this one, I'd say it's 100% up to personal preference. I know some ball players that use toggle off and some that use toggle on. I personally use toggle on if you're curious, but you can go both ways. For Zarya, I use a default crosshair, same as the ones before, and for custom hero settings, she's only got one, which is the barrier sensitivity. The lower the sensitivity, the more precise you have to be to put a barrier. So this is what 10% looks like, and this is what 100% looks like, where it's a lot more forgiving, so keep this at 100%. For Ashe, I use a pretty standard crosshair, so you can pause and copy it here. Now she has three custom hero settings. The first one is toggle zoom, keep that off. You don't want to ever have to press the button twice to zoom in. The second one is the relative aim sensitivity while zoomed. I actually just copied this number from some Reddit post a long time ago that explained that this sensitivity, 51.47%, from some Reddit post a long time ago that explained that this sensitivity, 51.47%, is the closest a long time ago that explained that this sensitivity, 51.47%, is the closest matching sensitivity to the unscoped versus scoped version. I'm pretty sure this only works with a 16:9 resolution at 103 FOV, so if you play on different resolution settings, this might change for you, but I got used to this long time ago, and I think this one's fine. And this last setting is called Recoil Recovery Aim Compensation, and it's kind of hard to explain using Ashe as an example, but trust me, you want it off for her specifically. I actually have it on the other heroes, Cassidy and Widowmaker, and refer to those sections for a longer explanation of what it does. Bastion has no custom hero settings, so this is the crosshair I use, and that's it. Alright, so for Cassidy, this is my crosshair. I used my standard reticle, which works best for most hit scan heroes. And if we scroll down, he has one major setting called Recoil Recovery Aim Compensation. The easiest way to show you what it does is to show an example. So let's keep the setting on for now. Camera shake, and it comes back down to where your reticle is. Now what we're going to do is mark the two endpoints of where your reticle is and where the top of that recoil animation is. If I flick to the left training bot's head with recoil compensation on in the middle of the animation, it's going to try to bring number 2 to the head, because that's where my crosshair is, but it's going to compensate and lift it up, and then finish the downward animation of the recoil and have my crosshair end up at number 1 over the head where I originally wanted to aim. And here it is where I quickly shoot and move my crosshair horizontally as best as I can, and it's pretty even on the x-axis, right? It is still over the head. Okay, now let's try recoil compensation off. Now my aim stays true to my crosshair and the game will not compensate the recoil animation, meaning if I flick to the left, just like before, let's animate the same, and now at number 2, the second marker, that's where my crosshair is, it's going to stay there, finish the downward animation, and then lower my crosshair to number 1, where now I'm actually aiming at the chest. Here it is in real time. I'm going as best as I can on the x-axis just like I was before, but the aim is pulling my crosshair down during the rest of the animation. So for Cassidy specifically, I actually really like this setting on, the default one, although some other players may argue it's better off. I like it on. You should try both. For Echo, I use my standard crosshair. Again, you can pause it and copy it here. But for custom settings, she has 3 of them. First one is duplicate requires target confirmation, which means if you see a target and you press duplicate, there's a confirmation screen that comes up where you can cancel it or duplicate it. The screen will stay up for about 3 seconds if you're in line of sight and 0.5 seconds if you're out of line of sight. I would generally recommend keeping this setting off. There's no need for a second screen because it slows down your duplicate, and duplicate is used a lot of times to iframe dodge abilities. The duplicate sensitivity, don't change it, keep it at 100. Remember, speed is key. And the last one, hold for flight, I would keep it off so that you just have to press your flight button once, move around the air, then you're good. Because if you have it on, you would press the flight button and you might cramp your pinky if you're on PC because you have to hold the flight button the entire time. For Genji, I use the standard crosshair, nothing special here. He's got one custom setting, which is automatically climbing walls. I generally recommend keeping this setting off because you don't want to ever accidentally climb a wall when you're facing it, because that's how it works. Normal way to climb a wall is if you hold the jump button near a wall, you'll climb up. Now, if you just jump once, let go of the button and face it, you're accidentally going to just tap it, so keep it off. For Hanzo, I actually have a very unique reticle for this. Use the circle and crosshairs, and then
Honor is all I have left.
Double kill. Double kill.
Scanning.
Double kill. Triple kill.
They crumble like ash before me. A testament to my skill.
Double kill.
You can't hide. Swift as the wind. You know I got the key.
Double kill. Triple kill. Quadruple kill. Double kill.
Unerring precision.
Triple kill.
I'll find them.
make sure the show accuracy button is turned on. Now what's going to happen is that every time you charge an arrow, the center gap is going to tighten to a regular crosshair to give you an idea of how much tension is in each arrow. This Shimada also
Mega Pamilya, winner ka na ba? Winner sa Omega 3, tulong sa heart. Winner sa calcium and protein, tulong sa teeth and bones. Winner ang buong pamilya sa Mega Sardines. Maging mega sa sarap, sustansya at saya.
Score is now 10-24.
Union Bank wins! Enjoy low to zero fees. 10 pesos for Instabay and 0 for bills payment and Testament. Low to zero fees for the win!
also has the auto wall climb option, but please keep it off so you don't accidentally tap a wall when you didn't mean to. For Junkrat, I use the circle and crosshair. Sometimes I actually use the regular crosshair, but I just made a circle and crosshair one for this video. You can go either way, nothing special. Now when you but I just made a circle and crosshair one for this video. You can go either way, nothing special. Now when you scroll down, you'll see he has one custom option, which is Riptire automatically climbs walls. Now some Junkrat players I've talked to say they keep this on sometimes to allow them to climb up obstacles on certain maps a lot easier. However, I think keeping it off is a little bit of a better option for better control, as I found myself even filming this accidentally trying to drop the tire down with a jump, and then I accidentally climbed the rock above me. For Mei, just use the standard crosshair, no custom hero settings. Moving on. For Pharah, I use a circle crosshair, which sort of matches the rocket width. There is no custom hero settings, so this is all you get. For Reaper, I personally just like a circle with a 40 center gap radius. Which sort of matches the rocket width. There is no custom hero settings, so this is all you get. For Reaper, I personally just like a circle with a 40 center gap radius with a tiny dot in the center. It doesn't actually quite match the radius of his actual shotguns in game, but it's tighter, it's decent, and you always want to aim in the center anyways. For Sojourn, I use the standard crosshair once again, nothing special here. She does have that hit scan railgun charge, so I like having the XY axis on the crosshair. No custom hero settings, but I do have a custom hero binding recommendation where you reverse the primary and secondary fire. Now you fire the projectiles with your right click on PC and fire the hit scan rail shot with your left click, because most people are used to shooting the hit scan stuff with their left click like Ashe, Widow, and those are the ones that require the highest level of precision. Soldier's a hit scan, so no surprise here, I use the same crosshair, but he does have one custom setting, which is hold to sprint. Keeping this setting off allows you to quickly tap the sprint and let go to quickly trigger the sprint mid-air after you jump to add a little bit of lateral movement. For Sombra, surprise surprise, I use the exact same crosshair here, nothing special, and she does have one custom setting, which is her hack sensitivity. I would keep this at 100, don't even bother changing it, because at 10% you have to be way too precise to get a hack off, but at 100, no problem. For Symmetra, here's my custom little circle crosshair. There's a little dot in the center. The dot helps you track your beam, and then the circle is roughly how close you have to be. For some Symmetra, here's my custom little circle crosshair. There's a little dot in the center. The dot helps you track your beam, and then the circle is roughly how close you have to be to get the direct hit with the secondary fire projectile. There's no custom hero setting, so that's it. For Torbjorn, no custom hero setting. Just use the regular crosshair and fire your Cheetos. I know Tracer uses pulse pistols with a bit of a spread, so you'd think I use a circle crosshair, but nah, I'm using my standard crosshair and nothing changes here, and she has no custom settings, so that's it. For Widow, here is my crosshair, same as the ones you've seen everywhere else, haven't changed it for all my hit scan heroes. Now if we scroll down, there should be a ton of hero options. For Toggle Zoom, I recommend keeping this off so you can do the quick charge shot, and once the shot's over, you can unscope and rescope again really quickly. Relative aim sense, I keep it at 38. I think this is from a calculator where 38 sensitivity is the sweet spot for where you move your crosshair out of scope versus in scope. It feels pretty similar. For grappling hook sensitivity, I keep mine at 40, and you generally want to keep this a lot lower than 100, because if you have it at 100, what's going to happen is if you want to grapple the ground here, you're going to end up grabbing the top because the grapple is super sensitive to any sort of high ground. You want to lower that sensitivity to 40 like I have, where now you have to be really precise where your crosshair is, so I'm aiming at the ground and my grapple will actually go to the ground so I can peek this corner. For Widow's recoil recovery aim compensation, please reference the Cassidy section of this video and use the timestamp to find it if you want a full explanation of what this setting does. For Widow though, I keep this setting on, and it'll only affect you if you take multiple shots in a row while scoped in. So when I move from target to target, my crosshair will move to where my arm and wrist actually aimed it towards without that long downward recoil kicking me a lot further down. If you constantly scope in for one shot, unscope, and rescope all the time, it actually won't really affect you since you're always recalibrating every time anyways. Alright, for Ana, I'm an Ana main, and I use a standard cross affect you if you take multiple shots in a row while scoped in. So when I move from target to target, my crosshair will move to where my arm and wrist actually aimed it towards without that long downward recoil kicking me a lot further down. If you constantly scope in for one shot, unscope, and rescope all the time, it actually won't really affect you since you're always recalibrating every time anyways. Alright, for Ana, I'm an Ana main, and I use a standard crosshair for Ana, surprise, surprise. Now, when we go into her custom settings, she's got 5 of them. First one
They knew we were coming.
is toggle zoom. I recommend every new player just keep this off. If you're ML7 and you're used to it from older games, like, don't fix what ain't broken. However, if you're a newer player learning this game and learning this hero, I recommend keeping toggle zoom off because it makes quickscoping a little bit more difficult with that extra input. Relative sensitivity while zoomed, I keep it at 38. Again, somebody did a calculation a long time ago with my 16:9 resolution at 103 FOV and they found 38% feels really natural compared to scoped versus unscoped, so I've been used to this for a long time. Recoil, recovery, aim compensation, again, refer to the Cassidy section of this video for a full explanation of what this setting does, but for Ana, I keep this setting on, and it allows me to flick to a person without having to worry about that long downward recoil animation. Nano boost requires target confirmation. I actually keep this off, but I've heard a lot of good counter arguments for turning this on and trying to get used to it now. The only reason why I still have it off is because this setting wasn't available when the hero first came out and I got used to it without it. But the benefit of keeping this on is that you won't accidentally nano the wrong person again, less boostios, and you can actually nano teammates through walls by clicking the confirmation screen, breaking line of sight, and then clicking them again. However, the timing is quite short. And for nano boost sensitivity, I keep mine at 60% because I think 100% is too high. You're going to end up boostioing too much, but 60% is that nice little sweet spot. For Baptiste, surprise, I use the same standard crosshair, no changes there. He's got 2 custom settings. First is again the recoil, recovery, aim compensation, which is on a few heroes. Please reference the Cassidy section of this video for a full explanation of what it does. For me, I got used to Baptiste with this setting on. However, I think for new players, I would actually teach them to turn this off. Smaller adjustments on the downward recoil is counterable quite easily. I think that specifically will feel more natural to newer players and will make aiming on Baptiste a little bit easier. And the automatic reload is a nice setting. Keep the default, which is on. Don't bother changing it. For Brig, I use a standard crosshair, no changes there. And she's got 1 custom setting, which is the heal pack sensitivity. I just keep it at 100 because I like throwing them out really easily. For Kiriko, I use a regular crosshair and she's got a ton of custom settings. For swift step sensitivity, you want it at 100 because you don't care about your teammate. You just want to be able to swift step to a teammate as quickly as possible, so the high sense is the best. For healing Ofuda sensitivity, keep it at 100 so it's a lot more forgiving as you track a teammate for more precise heals. And for toggle healing Ofuda, you want to keep this setting off because if you keep it off, it allows you to interact your heals and shoot your codes and do other actions really quickly. But if you had it on, it would try to fire all 5 papers in the center before allowing you to do anything else. You can still animation cancel, but sometimes it'll feel a little delayed and clunky. Healing Ofuda UI you want to keep on so you can see your healing papers in the center, and the auto climb walls, keep that off so you don't accidentally tap a wall where you didn't intentionally want to go up. For Lucio, I use a circle crosshair that's sort of the size of his primary fire green Oreo projectile, and he's got 3 important custom settings. First one, size of it. His primary fire green Oreo projectile, and he's got 3 important custom settings. First one, not so important I guess, but hold to crossfade, just keep that setting off, unless you want a finger cramp, because this is how you switch between speed and healing. Now, allow backwards wall ride should be on. No idea why it's off by default, but this setting allows you to wall ride while not looking at the wall, so you can continue aiming at the enemies and the team fight. Wall jump on release is on by default, but turn this off. When this setting is on, it'll automatically wall jump when you detach from a wall like this, which stops you from going into this room, for example, because you go so high. Now, when you take the recommended setting off, it will not automatically wall jump when you just wall skim like this, so you can go into the room now. You can still get the extra wall jump on release height by manually pressing an extra jump input. So All in all, keeping this setting off can only benefit you because it gives you better control of Lucio's movement. Alright, for Mercy settings, I think it's a lot easier if I just do this in one take and explain it all. So first of all, here is the crosshair I use. I use the circle. Her crosshair is not that important. Maybe this is for the pistol, but she does have a lot of specific settings. Let me start from the top. We have toggle beam connection on for me personally. I think this is really good because it allows you to just click one button and I can relax my hand and the beam will still stay on because it's toggled on. If that setting was off, I'd have to hold my mouse button or whatever button it's bound to the entire time to beam, and that's a recipe for a finger cramp. Next setting, Guardian Angel target priorities. So let me explain what each one does from the top, and then I'll tell you I prefer this last one, prefer facing target. But explaining what facing target only does means I can only Guardian Angel to a person that I'm facing. If I face this bot, I Guardian Angel to them. If I have a beam on this bot, I want a Guardian Angel here, I Guardian Angel where I'm facing. The second option is prefer beam target, which is actually the default setting that every Mercy player gets. I don't recommend this one. And the reason being, I can only Guardian Angel to the person my beam is on. I look at this bot, you see the indicator is no longer there. If I press Guardian Angel, I go towards my beam target. It has its benefits, but we'll get to the last one after. So if I'm looking this way, I Guardian Angel, I go backwards. As long as the beam is attached to me.
Don't worry, I'll be right behind you.
Third option is the happy medium between the first two options, which is prefer the facing target if possible. Normally, when a teammate breaks line of sight, you see the indicator? I break line of sight, I can no longer Guardian Angel. If I had the first setting on, prefer facing target, if I had the beam on, I only go to my target. I break line of sight, the L shift indicator, a Guardian Angel's gone. I can't Guardian Angel until I have line of sight again. Go this way. Can't go. I can go. I can't go. For a beam target, once again, if I'm like this, I can still Guardian Angel. There's a small little window because my beam is on them. It'll go away after a moment as soon as the beam breaks, but right there, I can actually prop super jump off the wall. If I just Guardian Angel into the wall, I can still re-peek. Third option is the happy medium, where we can prefer the facing target, like so. I Guardian Angel where I'm facing. The second option is prefer beam target, which is actually the default setting that every Mercy player gets. I don't recommend this one. And the reason being, I can only Guardian Angel to the person my beam is on. I look at this bot, you see the indicator is no longer there. I press Guardian Angel, I go towards my beam target. It has its benefits, but we'll get to the last one after. So if I'm looking this way, I Guardian Angel, I go backwards. As long as the beam is attached, of course. Third option is the happy medium between the first two options, which is prefer the facing target if possible. Normally, when a teammate breaks line of sight, you see the indicator? I break line of sight, I can no longer Guardian Angel to them. If I had the first setting on, prefer facing target, if I had the beam on, I only go to my target. I break line of sight, the L shift indicator, a Guardian Angel is gone. I can't Guardian Angel until I have line of sight again. Go this way. Can't go. I can go. I can't go. For a beam target, once again, if I'm like this, I can still Guardian Angel. There's a small little window because my beam is on them. It'll go away after a moment as soon as the beam breaks, but right there, I can actually prop super jump off the wall. If I just Guardian Angel into the wall, I can still re-peek. Third option is the happy medium, where we can prefer the facing target, like so. So, I have the beam on, but it's not a beam only, so if I look down here, I can still Guardian Angel down. But, because my beam is on, With the third setting on, there's a little forgiveness here, so I can still go to my original beam target. And this is useful in case you fall off. Let's say you're falling, your guardian angel, you break line of sight for a moment. Ah, but no, I'm still in. Here, I'm here. Oh, no, I'm still in. Oh, I broke line of sight. I'm back. If a Diva Bomb is coming and you want to keep beaming a person, you could drop, break line of sight, and then come back up, because you still had a little bit of the L shift or Guardian Angel indicator, because your beam was originally attached to that target. That's the benefit of this third option, which is what I highly recommend, prefer facing target. Guardian Angel sensitivity is self-explanatory. It's just the sensitivity of how close you need to be to Guardian Angel with someone. That indicator is already showing up when my crosshair is this close to the target. No, actually, it's pretty far away, but I can already shift over. But I think the higher generally is a bit better. Toggle Guardian Angel. This is personal preference. Toggle Guardian Angel is off for me, so I only fly as long as my button is pressed. If I let go, it's done. Let go. And get a quick little burst. If you turn this on, the moment you press it one time, it'll always go the max range until you manually press it again to stop it. I think it's recommended to get used to it with it off, but I don't think it's game breaking if you have it on, so I personally prefer this one off. For beam sensitivity, I just keep mine at 80, just as personal preference, but you generally want this higher than 50%. If you have it too low, like I'm pressing the beam button and no one's getting beamed, I have to be that close, that precise for the beam to attach. 100 is a little too sensitive for me. 100 means like it could go either way. It'll either beam between these two, depending on who's alive. This one's a little tougher. I don't like that. So I bring it down to 80. And then for the first example, I aim right there, I can beam someone. Moira, just a standard crosshair here, no custom hero settings, so that's all you get. And moving on to the last hero, we have Zenyatta. Same thing, crosshair, however he has two custom hero settings, which is Discord and Harmony Orb Sensitivity. Keep them both at 100 because you just want to put the orbs on people as quickly as you can, and that is it. Gameplay is the fourth tab, and there are three settings I want to
Watching over you.
keep them both at 100 because you just want to put the orbs on people as quickly as you can, and that is it. Gameplay is the fourth tab, and there are three settings I want to direct your attention to. The first two are under network, and you want to set both the limit client and server send rate to off because you never want to limit your data transfer rate. The most important setting on this page though is enable high precision mouse input, which you should 100% turn on. Overwatch simulates or ticks every 16 milliseconds or at 62.5 Hz. So here's an example of a mouse movement with the white lines representing what Overwatch 2 sees every 16 milliseconds server side. High precision mouse input enabled allows you to shoot and fire a projectile down any of the red lines in between the ticks, so you can now functionally shoot in between rendered frames or in between ticks. Now onto the HUD section. Kill feed should always be on for information. The sound playing for teammate and enemies being eliminated is also displayed here. It's the same thing as from the sound tab, and again, this one's personal preference. Always skip kill cam should be off, since the kill cam relays important information like enemies' ult charge. Snap death camera to killer should also be on to reveal their most recent positioning. The rest of the settings here aren't important, but when you go down, ability timer ring opacity pertains to the UI on your screen on some heroes like Diva's Booster or Flight Time. I keep this at 100%, but you can totally turn it down if you find it distracting. Player outline strength, I keep it at 100 so it's easy to see the enemy and teammates. The world waypoint opacity, I recommend turning it down to about 25%, because this is what it looks like at its default 100%. How are you supposed to see anyone through this? Just turn it down to 25%. The respawn icons are the ones over the teammates' bodies when they die. I keep it at 100%, it's not too bad. Under the social tab, the first option is where you can choose to keep your profile public or private, that's up to you, and the rest of the settings under this tab are all personal preference, so go through them slowly. The final tab is accessibility, and the first setting is camera shake, which I recommend turning on reduced, and HUD shake, turn it off as well. These settings make the game feel more visceral and realistic, but it can honestly throw off your aim if there's so much unnecessary motion. Okay, subtitles do offer a potential competitive advantage where it can read out abilities and callouts that might otherwise not be heard in the middle of hectic team fights. You can turn the setting on critical gameplay if you want. However, I personally have this off because I found it more distracting than helpful, as there's too many things to keep track of when playing Overwatch, and to look at my screen you're gonna make me read as well? No thank you. There's also the color blindness and text-to-speech tabs, but they don't have anything important from a competitive standpoint, but you should still take a look at them if you're audio or visually impaired. And that is all for the complete full optimization settings for Overwatch 2. Thanks for watching, everyone, and be sure to subscribe.
Fuel for adventure!
Welcome to Rialto. Prepare your defenses. Select your hero.
We're here to be heard. Louder this time. Let's slide.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming. Stop the payload.
check. Oh, you'll want to hear this.
Play of the game.
Hello and goodbye. Oh, let's break it. Damn!
Now traveling to Busan.
Our future will be forged in conflict.
Team kill.
In hardship, we find strength.
Team
Hey.
now entering King's Row. Prepare your defenses. Select your hero.
Our future will be forged in conflict.
I never asked my father his opinion. Now he is beyond my reach. I'm sure
All right, then. Test me.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming. Defend objective A. seconds remaining. Objective lost. Stop the ping.
Nanobot is ready. Get in there and I'll see.
Meteor strike is charging.
My ultimate is charging.
Stop, I'm going in.
Nanobot is ready to deploy.
Rocket punch. Spread the earth.
Dodge this.
Yeah. Lightning shot.
Our future will be forged in conflict. And they say every battle makes me stronger. And they say chivalry is dead.
I craft my own arrows. Each one a
And they say
meditation.
chivalry is dead. And they say chivalry is dead. And they say chivalry is dead.
I'm more of a basketball person.
Not a fan of your home team, huh?
Don't put words in my mouth.
And they say chivalry is dead.
4, 3, 2, 1. Attack commencing. Capture objective A.
Sniper spotted. I've come too far to stop now.
Watch out for that! Oh, hey!
Switching sides. Prepare your defenses. Select your hero.
Our future will be forged in conflict.
Seeking progress by sowing chaos is like planting a tree in a volcano.
Exactly.
Five, four, three, two, one. Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
Seismic shock. Just keep that color. My ultimate is charging. Rocket punch. Charging.
Begin. Now arriving at the Shambhala Monastery.
Dito tayo. Hindi na.
Our future will be forged in conflict.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Prepare yourself.
Attackers incoming.
Rocket one. This is your warning.
Why seek answers when we do not know the question?
There's a test subject.
Activating the barrier. payload to a stop.
Was there a miscalculation? Our future will be forged in conflict.
Score 0-3. Switching sides. Prepare to attack. Select your hero.
Why seek answers when we do not know the question? This time, stay focused, old man. How can one focus when viewing the infinite universe? You'd better find a way fast.
I have yet to. Our future will be forged
It's
in
making
conflict.
progress.
Our timeline is non-negotiable.
You keep interrupting me, surely that'll expedite things.
strengthen this wall. Aftershock. Ready for a knockout? Rocket punch. Meteor
Switching sides. Prepare your defenses. Select your hero.
Apocalypse ain't over.
I'll see this matter resolved.
Fall back! Defending. Defending.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming. Switching sides. Prepare to attack. Select your hero.
Dead weight gets left behind.
I'd rather wait a century for progress than cause the harm you have.
What a joy it must be to feel entitled to patience.
If you ever need help, just fly to me, Angela.
Ah, my hero. You're like a knight in flying armor.
That's what I'm going for.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 60 seconds remaining. Select your hero.
Our future will be forged in conflict. And they say chivalry is dead.
Everything's going according to plan.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lost in 30 seconds.
Seismic shock. This is your warning.
Why seek answers when we do not know the question?
Our future will be
Seeking
forged
progress
in
by
conflict.
sowing chaos is like planting a tree in a volcano.
Exactly.
I have helping those in need is its own reward. I have my eye on you. I have my eye on you.
I hope they put up a fight.
How y'all doing?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attack commencing. Capture objective 3.
As though I need it. I am on the objective. Report here now. Seal my fight. All according to plan. The payload is advancing. As it should.
Did the payload movie again?
Personne n'échappe à mon regard.
I will achieve my vision. Yours, Lisa. Over there. Driving the payload forward. Choice makes up. Ready for a knockout? Hardcore knockout. I will achieve my vision. Do not disappoint me. Rocket punch. I see one. Break the earth. Prevail or die. Enemy
Play of the game. Traveling to Dorado.
We're here to be heard.
Recap.
I'll find my own path.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attack.
Thanks for the touch-up.